And I can tell you, speaking for myself, I own nothing in Russia. I have no loans in Russia. I don't have any deals in Russia.
You definitively say that nobody...
Well, I had nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with Russia. I told you. I have no deals there. I have no anything.
Welcome back. It took reporters 3 tries before Donald Trump finally answered that question. Did anyone on his campaign have any contact with Russian officials before the election? His answer? They didn't. Well, not to the best of his knowledge. And joining me now to discuss this are Scott Dworkin, a senior advisor for the Democratic Coalition Against Trump and the creator of the hashtag TrumpLeaks, Julia Ioffe, a staff writer for The Atlantic, and journalist David K. Johnston, a columnist for the Daily Beast and the author of The Making of Donald Trump. Thank you all for being here. All right, so let's go through really quickly. I'll start with you, David. Donald Trump says he owns nothing in Russia. He has no loans in Russia and has no deals in Russia. Is that true?
Well, he may not have any businesses in Russia, but he has lots of business with Russians. If Donald Trump's deal for the land near Mar-a-Lago had been done by a city councilman or a state legislator, everybody would be screaming payoff scandal, because in a market where Donald Trump said real estate had fallen away to nothing, he got more than double his price in a little over 3 years. We will publish shortly at dcreport.org, the new nonprofit news service I've set up, a series about a whole area of Russian connections that hasn't come out anywhere else yet. And the public record on his connections is so extensive that Jim Henry's article, which I edited and wrote the introduction for at American Interest magazine, is 10,000 words long. No connections, just enough to write 10,000 words.
Oh, it's a very good point. And, Scott, you have also written probably more than 10,000 words at this point about all of the various Trump business connections to Russia and Russians. You tweeted out, I believe you tweeted this out yesterday, a very interesting soundbite. This is a flashback to David Letterman, October 17, 2013. This is Donald Trump on Letterman. Let's take a look.
Have you had any dealings with the Russians?
Well, I've done a lot of business with the Russians.
They're commies, you know that.
Well,
they're
commies.
tough.
They're smart, and they're tough, and they're not looking so dumb right now, are they?
Well, it's Vladimir Putin. Have you ever met the guy?
Tough guy. I met him once.
Scott, so now you have Donald Trump back then in 2013 saying, tough guy, I met Vladimir Putin once, and saying he's done a lot of business with the Russians. So which is it?
He has. He's done extensive business. I think that we need to limit the in Russia part of things. I don't know if that matters, because he's done a lot of business in the United States with Russians. Keep in mind that people like Aras Agalarov have been here doing business since 1996, him specifically. He also, specifically with Aras Agalarov, last night we found, and this is not public yet, but last night we found multiple articles where he commented on the record during the campaign that he was directly in touch with Trump and the campaign. He also said that his son Amin came to the United States to meet with the Trump folk during the campaign as well.
And who is this person? Tell us who he is.
Amin Agalarov was the person who came over here. Aras Agalarov is the person who sponsored Miss Universe in Moscow, who gave $20 million to him for that. He's a billionaire that's based in Moscow.
And I guess one of the questions a lot of people have, Julia, is what sort of brought Donald Trump to these affinities with Russia? I guess the speculation is that when he got into financial trouble in the late 1980s, it was Russian money in large part that bailed him out. Does that bear out for you?
I don't know that it would have been in the 1980s. Russia didn't have much money at the time. It was kind of, the Soviet Union was becoming bankrupt. I think it would have been later if it happened. I think we still need evidence of this stuff. That said, if you're real estate in New York and Florida in the 2000s and later, you are going to be doing deals with some really shady Russians, just like you're going to be doing deals with some really shady Chinese business people, Gulf business people, people looking to park their money. And Russian oligarchs have traditionally parked their money in real estate in London and New York and Florida because it's just a way to get money out of Russia, which is really unstable. You can, the FSB can decide it wants your business at any point. You can come under political attacks. This is a way to find a more stable place to park your money outside of a very volatile and unstable country. As for why Trump loves Putin so much, I don't know. I mean, we still have to, it seems like Putin was throwing in for Trump during the campaign. And also, I think he just has an affinity for this kind of these strongman tactics. There's something deeply undemocratic about both of them. And I think there's this kind of adolescent idea of masculinity that appeals to him. There's a reason they both kind of, they like action movie stars.
Yeah, and Scott, you were nodding at that part about the Russians liking to park their money in the United States. We know that in Trump Tower there are quite a few sort of Russian nationals living there, and so there is that economic connection. Talk a little bit about the connection that goes beyond Donald Trump to his children. I should say we mentioned Wendy Deng, who is friends with his daughter Ivanka. She is the alleged, I think, former girlfriend now at this point of Vladimir Putin. So this is not just Donald Trump; it's also his family.
Correct. Yeah, Donald Trump Jr. actually spoke 10 years ago at a Russian real estate conference as the keynote speaker. The conferences are called the Adam Smith conferences. They are run by Putin's folk. They were run by Putin's folk then. It had to as well. And then you follow into 2008, and Trump and Michael Cohen set up an affliction. They were trying to do a reality show based in Russia. That had to have been approved by Putin, even just to move forward in the initial stages. So there's no way that this guy, Fedor, who was a fighter of theirs, would have been able to fight or even considered to fight if Putin did not approve it. So you have these different links to people, especially with Trump Jr. I think, you're either a terrible businessman or you're doing something involving oil or gas. Going over there 6 times and not closing any business deals, I'm pretty sure that after the second time, Trump Sr. would have said, stop going there. It's nonsense to think that they're not making any money over there, or they're not actually doing any business deals. So I think redefining the basic sense of he's making this money. Another thing I want to touch on is the person who bought the Florida estate for $100 million also bought a New York City penthouse for $88 million from him. So that's almost $200 million. And I believe that was from his daughter. But in the Florida estate, he wasn't going to live there, and he didn't rent it out for at least a year. So parking his money, I think, is spot on.
I'm sorry to interject. Can we just, let's not overstate also Putin's power and control. I don't think he has to personally approve TV shows. That's just, I think we're really overstating things.
I think with that, he did because they had a background with him where they had a fight in New York City. So if he had involvement with Trump, I think that Putin absolutely had to be involved. There's no way that he's going to be involved with a business deal internationally with Trump and him not have a hand in it. I just don't see it.
Not necessarily.
If I may, hold
on, let me give David the last word.
On the issue of the Russians here, Putin may not have personally approved these things, but let's make no mistake about it. The Russian oligarchs have their money only so long as they are in the good graces of Vladimir Putin. And the easiest way to understand their behavior is that they are a state-sponsored network of international criminals who've been trying to interfere with other democracies, to loot the wealth, particularly through Iceland, of the Netherlands and Britain. And Donald Trump has been deeply involved with many of these people, and the reports we're going to publish shortly at DC Report will open up a whole new vein about this.
All right. Well, we will definitely be following that. We'll be following Trump leaks as well. So Scott Dwork and Julia Ioffe and David K. Johnson, thank you very much for the lively discussion.